Okay, I think we'll go ahead and get started. Good afternoon to all, and thank you for joining us. My name is Andres Castrillon. I'm the Senior Counsel for International Affairs with the Auto Care Association. And today we're going to take a look at what's happening in the automotive market in Peru and the benefits of participating in the upcoming Auto Care Association trade mission to Peru in May. Taking a quick look at our agenda, I'm just going to start with a little bit of background about the Auto Care Association, the grant or the award that we have with the Department of Commerce, and why we're choosing to focus on the Latin American marketplace. Then my colleague from the U.S. Embassy in Lima, Cesar Jahomowicz, is going to give us an overview of doing business in Peru. We're also very pleased to be joined today by Peter Davis from the Automotive Association of Peru, to give us a deeper insight into the automotive industry in Peru, what the business opportunities are there for U.S. exporters. And then my colleague Carolina Arregoses, also from the Auto Care Association, will go into more depth on the trade mission, the logistics, and the benefits for joining. There will be an opportunity for Q&A at the end, but if you have questions as they arise, I encourage you to go ahead and type them in. If you look at the lower right-hand corner of your screen, there's an icon there and a space there for you to type in questions, which we will monitor during the presentation. And again, we will answer all those questions at the end of the presentation. A brief background on the Auto Care Association for those of you that aren't familiar. We are a trade association based just outside of Washington, D.C. in Bethesda, Maryland, and we represent manufacturers, distributors, and retailers of auto parts and associated products and services. We provide advocacy, education, market intelligence, and a host of other services for our members. But one of the areas that we've become increasingly active in is in the area of international business development, helping our members identify international business opportunities and international business partners. One of the ways that we're doing this more recently is through an MDCP award from the Department of Commerce. This is an export promotion award that the Commerce Department makes available to trade associations aimed at increasing U.S. exports, and in this case, U.S. auto exports. We're doing this for two main reasons. First, it's a global marketplace. Our members and companies in the auto care industry generally are competing in a global marketplace. It's a global supply chain, and more U.S. companies really need to look global for growth opportunities. And then second, exporting just makes good business sense. The more markets you export to, the more sales that you make ultimately, and the stats support that. More specifically as to why we are focused so specifically on Latin America, there's a few reasons why. First, in polling our members both formally and informally, the Latin American marketplace came up most consistently as the target growth area for our membership. Some other reasons are the fact that more than half of all of America's free trade agreement partners are in Latin America, and we'll talk about that more generally in a little bit. There's already a lot of U.S. goods going to our FTA partners in Latin America, so there's a track record of success there. There's a familiarity with our name brands, with the way that we do business with our companies, and so it's been historically a very good marketplace for U.S. goods. And then we see a lot of criteria that we look at in the emerging marketplace for good growth targets. We see a growing middle class in a lot of these markets. So tastes change. There's more income for disposable income. Markets tend to get less price sensitive as the middle class continues to emerge and grow. We see a lot of industries maturing and diversifying. So distribution becomes more sophisticated. It starts to look like a marketplace that our members and the U.S. companies are a little bit more familiar with. Very high level of used car sales and also used vehicle imports. A lot of used American vehicles end up in some of these markets. And with the aging vehicle population, you know, what we look for in the North American marketplace in terms of a sweet spot for aftermarket products, we're starting to see a lot of those same characteristics in the Latin American marketplace. There's also proximity. These marketplaces are closer to our borders, so we have a built-in advantage versus competitors that may be coming from Asia or Europe. And then demand. As I mentioned before, there's a demand for U.S. products. There's a demand for the quality and the technology that we can provide, and the familiarity with our name brands, again, and how we do business. As I mentioned before, there are a lot of free trade agreement partners in Latin America, and Peru is one of those. And free trade agreement countries are excellent targets for export growth for a lot of different reasons. The first of which is the tariff elimination. So currently, 80% of U.S. products are going into Peru tariff-free, and that includes the overwhelming majority of automotive products. But in addition to the tariff barriers, the free trade agreements also address non-tariff barriers, so regulations that may exist in other markets that may be discriminatory towards U.S. companies or U.S. goods. Those also get eliminated as part of a free trade agreement negotiation. Protections for investments in property are also part of an FTA, so there's a lot more transparency, a lot more security when investing into these markets. Customs procedures also get looked at and harmonized so that there's not the paperwork and the procedures that you have to go through in order to enter the marketplace is not as burdensome as what you might find in a non-FTA country. And then another key factor is the establishment of procedures for resolving disputes. The last thing you want to do when you're trying to invest in a market, in a foreign marketplace that speaks a different language, has a different legal system, is end up in one of their court systems that can drag on for a very long time. So in the event that some sort of legal dispute arises, the free trade agreements have a system in place for resolving those disputes through a binational dispute resolution panel. So again, it gives you a lot more security, a lot more transparency. And then when we actually look at what the exports of auto parts look like, not just to the region overall, but to Peru specifically, with the exception of a slight dip in 2015, we see that the overall growth trends for U.S. auto exports are very positive and very favorable, and we expect that to continue. So that's just a little bit of background on the Auto Care Association and what we're doing, why we've chosen to focus on Latin America and Peru specifically. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, Cesar, from the U.S. Embassy in Lima.
Thank you, Andres. This is Cesar Johamovic. I work with the Foreign Commercial Service in the U.S. Embassy in Lima. I am the Senior Commercial Specialist, and in my portfolio, I handle the automotive sector. I want to give you a brief picture of the doing business in Peru. After this introduction, in our next slide, titled Peru at a Glance. Peru, as most of you probably know, is located on the west coast of South America. It's a relatively big country, slightly smaller than the state of Alaska. It's the 5th largest economy in South America after Brazil, Argentina, Colombia, and Chile. Its GDP in the year 2015 was on around 180 billion US dollars. It has been, it went down a little bit. Its normal, so to speak, level for these years is around $200 billion. That should give you an idea on the size of the economy. The macroeconomic position of the country is pretty solid. The international reserves, according to our central bank, as of March 1st this year, was over 30% of the GDP. This is equivalent to 20 months of imports. And during the year 2015, bilateral trade, this means exports to the U.S. and plus imports from the U.S., reached $13 billion. In the next slide, I would like to talk about our population. Peru has a population of, it must be right now about 31 million people, of which slightly more than half is middle class. Now, this mention of middle class should be taken considering that it's a socioeconomic level different than in the U.S. Middle class for us is a bit below what middle class is in the U.S. But nonetheless, the middle class has grown quite a bit because the country has enjoyed stability and growth during the last 20 years. The median age of the population is 26 years. It's a young population. 47% of it is below age of 24. Unemployment rate is pretty low, close to 7%. That's very good for our countries. That's pretty low. And literacy rate is around 88%. So we have basically a young population that is trainable and that is eager to work in developing themselves and easily trainable. In our next slide, I would like to tell you why Peru is a country you should look at. This year, 2016, we are celebrating in February the 7th anniversary of the U.S.-Peru Trade Promotion Agreement, commonly known as the Free Trade Agreement. Andres explained some details of it and the benefits that U.S. exporters and business people coming to do business in Peru can enjoy due to the FTA or USPTPA, however you want to call it. Peru has been growing during the last 10 years. The GDP growth has averaged 6.2%. During 2015, the growth slowed down to 3.3%. Nonetheless, this is still quite an interesting growth rate when compared to our neighboring countries in the region. The U.S. foreign direct investment is at a level of $8.2 billion US. That is the stock of U.S. foreign direct investment. The credit rating of the country is pretty good. It's A3 according to Moody's, and all the credit rating agencies considers that the outlook of the country is stable, meaning Fitch, Standard & Poor's, the same Moody's, and others, to mention just the best known. And this is the second highest credit rating behind Chile in the region. We have also recently opened an intellectual property rights attaché office. That is a regional office that is overlooking the IPR issues in Peru and the surrounding countries. Now, not everything is rosy, and in our next slide, we are going to talk a little bit about the challenges that the country faces. Infrastructure is one of them. Economists and several studies estimate that the country has an infrastructure gap of $100 billion. The geography of this country is difficult. We have the Andes Mountains, and You can see in the map, the coast is a slim line of desert facing the Pacific Ocean. What you can see in light brown or beige color are the highlands, the Andes Mountains, and the green area is the jungle, the rainforest. Over 50% of the population lives in the coast, and less than 10% in the jungle, the remaining in the highlands. Intellectual property enforcement is an issue. There are piracy problems, so you should register your products and make sure that that is taken care of. Bureaucratic ineffectiveness, inefficiency, and corruption are also issues. Informality is present. Some people estimate that between 60 to 70% of the working force is informal. And finally, we would like to mention here SUNAT. SUNAT is the Peruvian tax collecting agency. It is our IRS. And they sometimes, in their eagerness to collect taxes and get the money needed to run the country, they go beyond reasonable limits, and so it's an issue to take into consideration. The next few bullets in this slide, I have put them with a separation from the previous ones because those are not really challenges, or maybe challenges up to a point. I would better call them probably more appropriately uncertainties. Peru is having presidential and congressional elections on April the 10th. And no candidate, it seems, will get the 50% plus one votes in order to be elected in the first round. So it is pretty much sure that there will be a runoff election, but only for the two first presidential candidates that get most voted on April 10, and this runoff will take place June 5. The voting on April 10 will define how the Congress will be distributed. The new administration will take office on July 28. So this is a transition year. The current government is going out. There is a new government yet to be known which will be it. There are 19 candidates. 2 just got off the game, so we have 17 left. But there are probably 4 to 6 that are the ones that have the most chances, according to the polls. And that government taking office by the middle of this year, while they really find their way around, there is probably nothing very important going to happen during the second half of this year. So it is a good time, putting a positive viewpoint here, to put your feet on this country and be prepared for next year, 2017, when things are expected to speed up. Our next slide lists a few of the main tips that we consider are necessary for newcomers to be successful in this market. First of all, personal relationships. Latin Americans like to be kind of friends with the people they do business. So personal relationships are important. It is also advisable to have a local partner. It is very difficult to do business in a foreign country where you don't know the people, you don't know the language perhaps. and it might be too costly initially to open your own shop here. So finding a local partner is the way to start for most companies. It is also important to have a post-sale service plan. Some companies come, sell, go away, and in any sector, in any industry, that's not a good idea. And this is even more true in the automotive sector. There is no better car than its post-sale service, used to say a friend of mine. US suppliers should focus on the quality of their products. Even though this is still a price market, the growth that this country has been enjoying during the last couple of decades, as I previously mentioned, is switching that focus on price to quality. To put it simple, you are not going to compete on price with Chinese products. You need to compete on the quality and on the service of your products. And there are many people and many companies that are conscious that in the long run, it is more profitable to pay more for quality and have less trouble and a longer lifespan for their products. We always also strongly advise you to get good legal advice. You don't want to fall in the hands of the judiciary here. It would be for sure a long and costly battle. Andres mentioned something in this regard, and what we advise is to get good legal advice. We can provide a list of local law firms that are well-reputed firms in a variety of areas. When you get into a contract, we also recommend, strongly encourage the companies to put an arbitration clause in their contracts, again, to avoid falling into the hands of the judiciary. It is needless to say, conduct a good due diligence process on the business you plan to establish here, on the partners you plan to appoint here. And finally, use us. Contact the commercial service for help. We have services that can provide you background checks on a local company to help you with your due diligence. We have services that can help you find a local partner to start with. And in the next slide, which is the last one in my short presentation, is my name and my contact information. We will be glad to help you in any way we can. And having said that, I will now pass the word to our good friend here, Peter Davis, who has kindly accepted to help us on behalf of the Automotive Association of Peru to give you a little bit more of insight into this particular industry. Peter, please.
Thank you, Cesar. Well, good afternoon to all. I'll go directly to the point. The Automotive Association of Peru, and if you see the second slide, it says, who are we? It's an association, it's the oldest automotive association in Latin America. It was founded in 1926, and it has been continually operating since. This makes it, gives it a special place within the automotive associations, and in fact, at this moment, we are president of the automotive association, let's say, group of all of Latin America. We have 235 members in the several sectors, mainly in automotive, motorcycles, and heavy machinery, but also in parts, service, and in fact even in the fuel, refining, insurance, and banking systems. This is because we prefer to have within our members representatives of all these different sectors, since we work through a committee system where we can have direct one-on-one meetings with the different groups and help them where necessary. We also have a business that wasn't originally planned, but in fact it happened to be available, and it was accepted by the government for us to supply the license plates, the number plates for all the vehicles in Peru. This is done through a system that is very well regulated, and in fact all the license plates in Peru, we have even a third license plate that has a chip on it that can be used for counting vehicles or locating vehicles and things like that. Our license plates are state of the art, really. We also provide a lot of services. We have a training, sort of a night school, let's call it, where we train in all the business aspects of in the automotive sector, from running a workshop, things like that, but also administrative and other specialities. And we have a second line within this that's document processing. This has been established just a couple of years ago, and it's been quite successful. At the moment, we have around 30% of the market, which means that since sometimes the regulations require a lot of transport of one document to a different office and things like that, we do this at a fixed cost and in a more efficient manner than what was previously done by smaller companies. This also one of the reasons we can assure a higher or faster process is that since we have the expertise and experience of what is necessary, we make sure all the forms are correctly filled and the process is being completed before the documents have been given to the government for process. That means that those documents are not sent back because something is missing. Next slide, please. In the year 2014, and here I will just comment. These studies are quite expensive, relatively expensive here, and therefore we don't do them very often. So we have just data from the year 2013. But as Cesar explained, the year 2013, from then we have fallen back a little bit, but not very much in this sector, and so these numbers are very up to date. Apoyo Consultoría is a well-known consulting firm. They made this study, and on the next slide, it includes new vehicle sales, spare parts, and service was $15 billion in the year 2013, equivalent of 9% of GDP. This is after mining, the second largest sector in Peru, much larger than anything else. We have around 70,000 direct and 200,000 indirect jobs generated within the sector. This includes all the sort of annexes within this. It's not the direct sales, but also service, spare parts, etc. You'll see several other points there, but basically it's sales tax and all these property taxes, etc. 3.75 billion, and 45,000 vehicles financed. This is one point where we were hoping to get a larger percentage of the vehicles financed. We think this will allow the market to expand, and but still a lot of vehicles are purchased cash. No? Also, insurance premiums were very high. The insurance policy, there's a obligatory insurance policy, but it's just a third party, 1.9 million. And just for the year 2014, September, there were 528 car and truck sales points. These are distributors in Peru. Year 2013, total sales were 474,000 vehicles. This is cars and vehicles. One point that's important, and this is I hadn't put it on the presentation, but I noticed now that Peru has a very low ratio of vehicles per 100 people population. We are the lowest in Latin America. The second lowest is Colombia, and then from there it goes up higher. What does this mean? It means that the market exists for additional sale of new vehicles. Plus, this also means that the turnaround of the vehicles will increase. According to other studies, we could be expected to grow at around a 10% increase in sale of new vehicles per year within the next 2 or 3 years. Next slide. The automotive market, of course, has nearly all the vehicles in Peru are through members of the Automobile Association. Please don't consider this like an automobile association in the U.S., which is more in. Here we have something that's called the Touring and Automotive Association, which is more or very similar to the Automotive Association in the U.S. In Peru, we are a larger organization, and we have a much higher level of interaction within the government, and from helping the government develop new regulations to making sure that everything is as clear as possible. So the effort of logistics and commercial aspects to complement the increase in sales has grown very much. Of course, if you sell more vehicles, and in the last the year 2000, Andres had made a comment of the growth of Peru from the year 2000 to the date. In the year 2000, sales were around 120,000 vehicles. Now it's 170,000, and we had a peak of 200,000 in the year 2013. Even though the worldwide economy slowed a lot, and we have had decreases of vehicle sales in the last 2 years, if we put them in the worldwide context, and more specifically in the regional context, we are even better than in Chile. That means the reduction of market in Peru has been less than in Chile, and of course many times less than most of the other countries surrounding us. But as you can see, of course, we have in the shipping companies, warehousing, customs offices, information technology, real estate, security, etc. All these sectors are affected by the size of our business, and because of that we have this impact on the economy. Next slide. This gives a presentation of what has happened of the total auto and truck and bus sales from the year 2008 to this year. 2016 is the dotted line, sort of in the middle of the chart, and it shows the level of sales in January and February, which are around 13,500 vehicles, and we expect it to be quite stable over the rest of the year. Some of you might wonder what happens in November. Some of these lines you will see have a peak in November, much higher than the rest of the year, and this is because in that month, every 2 years, we have a trade show, which is called the motor show here. It's basically an automotive motor show, but it also includes services and spare parts vendors. And since this is a 2-year, every 2 years it happens, there's already an expectancy that in this year we will have a peak because sales increase substantially, well, maybe 1,000 additional units in that month. If we look at a curve of the sales, of the total vehicle sales, in the next slide, on the red line, it shows that what has happened and how we peaked in the year 2012, 2013, and it's decreased a little bit, but now it's we have a slight upward trend again. But this line is the total vehicles. If we go to the next slide, we'll see the divided. It's kind of might be difficult to read, but I'll give you the idea in the colors. The green color is for light-duty vehicles, cars, SUVs, etc. And as you see there, the line is quite steep growth in the first few years, and then it has stabilized at quite a high level. The yellow line, the next one on the right, is the commercial vehicles. This means pickups. That's because the pickups are considered commercial here. Pickups, vans, small trucks, small buses, etc. There we have had a peak also in the same middle, say 2012, but then it has decreased quite a bit. One of the reasons for this is that because of government regulations, the mining sector specifically has been quite hard hit by environmental regulations, etc. And several mining operations have been quite slow to come online, and therefore the sale of vehicles to that sector has fallen considerably. In the case of the blue line, it has a lot of changes, and this is in the bus sector. It changes so much year to year. It's kind of stable, but big peaks and valleys. Means that these buses are the largest purchaser of buses is the public transport system, and a lot of these peaks are because of changes in the public transport system, where new regulations require a change in the fleet, and therefore we have these big jumps. In the case of heavy-duty vehicle trucks, basically, we have a peak also in the year 2012, but then it has fallen considerably for the same reason as the commercial vehicles. Construction, mining, and several other industries have been slow to react, and therefore the sales of vehicles to these industries has fallen. If we talk about the next slide, you can see what has happened since the year 2014. 2015 we dropped 8.5%, and we are expecting a 3.2% drop in sales, estimated sales for the year 2016. Andres and Cesar have gone into the free trade agreements. This next slide shows them. It's difficult to read, but we'll see it a little bit more in detail. But in the year 2016, a lot of, as you can see on the left-hand side, the free trade agreements, and these are only the free trade agreements that are in the automotive sector. We have free trade agreements with other countries, but not necessarily in the sector, in the automotive sector. But in the automotive sector, we have quite a few free trade agreements. The one signed with the U.S. Is one of the oldest, and we are pretty much reaching a 0% in import duties. Our import duties, by the way, are quite low. It's 6%. So the difference from the 6% that non-free trade agreement countries have to pay, and the ones that do have a free trade agreement is only that difference. Other countries in the region have much larger differences in the. I mean, the free trade agreement really makes a big difference, sometimes up to 30%. In the next slide, it's basically just a sort of extract of the previous one, which shows what the tariff program for the cars in the year 2015, 16, 17. As you can see from the U.S., all the vehicles with above 3,000 or 3 liters are already on 0, and the ones that are below that are in 2.4% right now in the year 2016. But many of the other free trade agreements that have been signed are also bring the numbers closer to what is already happening. Next slide. In the automotive sector, as you can see, we have it's divided by certain internal regulations. Light-duty vehicles, the U.S. In the year 2014 represented 3.8%. In light-duty trucks, practically nothing, 0.1%. Buses, the U.S. isn't even present, and heavy-duty trucks and tractor trailers, the U.S. 4.1%. So there is a possibility of growth within this market. We think as a product, the American made product is well received. We have a lot of distributors, and we have several actual brands that already have their own offices here. Ford Motor Company, for example, or General Motors already have their own offices. Up to 3 years ago, they worked through a representative. Now they have put their feet in the country. Okay, and we have 2 more slides. The next one is supply of automotive parts. We have a certain level of production, the basics, air, fuel, filters, etc., tires, oils, truck rims, and the last one, which is safety glass. They have just recently inaugurated a new factory. It's called American Glass Products, and they export glass, safety glass, to OEM companies. In the case of imports, we have all of the above. There's no limitation. Only in tires there's a little bit of a certain red tape, but other than that, it's quite easy to register or do business in Peru. Engine parts, body parts, crash parts, suspension, brakes, etc., are the typical parts that are imported. We do have within the free trade agreement certain limitation regarding remanufactured parts and assemblies. You can only use the parts must only be either remanufactured or new parts. You cannot include used parts in the assembly that you are if you are submitting. It has to maintain standards, dimensions, quality of a new part, and also have the warranty of a new part. And in fact, some of the processes are even detailed. For example, the process that an engine, transmission, alternator, etc., has to go through to be able to be considered a remanufactured part makes it sort of levels the table. You can only bring in parts that really have been remanufactured. The problem was that certain companies were bringing in parts that had not been completely remanufactured, and they were causing problems in the after sales. In fact, there's also a mechanism that assures that the remanufactured part complies with the regulation. Well, thank you very much, and I'm free for any. I should have put my contact information, but we can send it to you, and I'm open to any questions, whatever you need. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Peter, and to you, Cesar, for that very thorough overview of the automotive market in Peru. We're running a little late on time, so I'm going to quickly turn it over to my colleague, Carolina, who will now provide additional details on the upcoming trade mission to Peru.
Okay, so thank you very much, everyone. Good afternoon. I am Carolina Regosas with the Auto Care Association. So now that we have discussed these markets and best prospects in Peru, you're probably wondering how to start taking advantage of the business opportunities. So the first step that we are proposing today is participating in a trade mission organized by the Auto Care Association and the U.S. Commercial Service. And, well, these trade missions offer a proven, cost-effective tool to learn firsthand about these target markets. And here we have the benefits for participating. And first, you will have personalized business-to-business meetings through the U.S. Commercial Service matchmaking service for your specific goals and objectives. You will also participate in networking receptions with key local executives, hotel accommodations and local ground transportation to all of the events of the trade mission are included, and also on-site interpreters and translation of 2 pages marketing brochure to Spanish. So we have confirmed the trade mission dates for Peru in Lima. It's going to be from May 17 till May 19, and here you find the tentative itinerary. It is also available online, so it's very briefly, the first day you will have the country briefing, in the afternoon some site visits, and at night the reception. The next day is a full day of personalized business-to-business meetings, and on Thursday you will be returning to the United States. Here we see the costs, the package cost for the trade mission. So let's say that you're a small, medium-sized company, that you're a member of the Auto Care Association, so you will be paying $3,500 for this package. And so please also keep in mind that there is a different price for large companies, and these are companies with over 500 employees. It is important to keep in mind that as part of the award the association received from the Department of Commerce, participants promoting U.S. products that are 51% U.S. content will receive a $1,500 reimbursement, and this is going to be after fulfilling confidential reports that will include your results based on your participation in the trade mission. So it means that as long as you're promoting U.S. content products, you qualify for this reimbursement. So let's say that you're a medium-sized company and that you will end up investing in this trade mission only like $2,000. So this is a really good value for the results you're going to receive. So the information to register in our trade mission, so please go to our website, www.autocare.org/trade-missions. You will fill out there a form with some of your contact information and your objectives for the trade mission. Then we will get preliminary feedback from the U.S. commercial specialist in Lima. We will schedule a conference call with you to discuss your expectations and the products you will be promoting, and you will be receiving a notification on your qualification within 2 weeks along with the invoice. And once your payment is received, we will start working on your meetings. Please remember that the deadline to register is April the 1st, is coming soon, so please visit our website. Here you will find our contact information from Cesar in Peru, Peter Davis from the Association of Peru, Andres Castellon, and myself. So please let us know if you have questions, if you require more information. Please let us know, and we will be able to help you throughout the process. Thank you very much.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Carolina. I also wanted to take a moment to mention that recently the Overseas Automotive Council, which is part of another trade association, the Automotive Aftermarket Suppliers Association, another very active association in the aftermarket, has announced that they will also be joining us in participating in this trade mission to Peru along with a few of their members. So I wanted to thank Ben Bricado from the OAC for his work and his support, and we're very excited that they'll be working with us. We do have a few questions that I want to go ahead and get to, and I think most of these are for Cesar and Peter. The first is, are there OEMs that are currently producing vehicles in Peru? And if not, do you know of any that have plans to establish production facilities there?
No, there are no OEMs here in Peru. Basically, we are just an importing country, and there are no plans that we know of to establish production of vehicles here. By the way, there's no limitation. It just means that the development of a country has been such, but there are no limits.
Thank you, Peter.
Well, a comment there, and this is more a follow-up question for Peter on this matter. I understand that there are motorcycle assemblers here in this market?
Yes, that's true. There are assembly plants for motorcycles. Honda Motorcycles has an assembly plant in the jungle in Iquitos. I'm sorry, I forgot about this part. And small assemblers that basically work with SKD assembly. Very simple. They disassemble the motorcycle to be able to pack more into the crate or into the container. But it's not really an assembly process. It's just a way to reduce the freight costs.
Great, thank you, Peter. Another question for you. Do you know if the Mahindra brand is currently present in Peru?
Yes, it is. It has gone through a couple of hands, but it is well represented right now.
Great. Also, Peter, you mentioned during your presentation an automotive show, trade show in November. Do you have the specific dates for that? And if not, you can send it to us, and we'll make sure that we get it out to the participants. Yes.
Well, there has been a process of there were two automotive associations in Peru. One was called ARAPER, which was the Association of Representatives, automotive representatives in Peru. Another one is the Automobile Association of Peru. These both organizations have been fused into one starting the 1st of January of this year, and the motor show is one of the points that was part of the association that has disappeared, which was ARAPER. The dates or the possibility of having this motor show this year are still not certain. But we believe that it could go ahead, but we cannot give you any certainty right now.
And if it goes ahead, it will be in the month of November.
In the month, yes. It's usually in the last 2 weeks of November. This motor show, by the way, has in the last motor show that was done in the year 2014 had more than 38,000 square meters of exhibition space. It was the largest, after, well, a mining show, which is very large, but it's the largest commercial show in Peru.
Great, Peter. Next question for you. Do you have or are you aware of any source for statistics on car sales by make and vehicle population?
Yes, we have a website. I can get that sent. Basically, there's two systems. One is the sales, the reported sales by each dealer, and the other one is those vehicles that have been registered, that have already been given a number plate. I can give you that information also. This is, it'll give you the detail of the vehicle, the type of vehicle, etc. I can go in the sales back a few years. It's a question of getting the volume of information is very big. I would have to make some sort of a
summary.
A summary, yes, of the total. How many years back do you want to know, etc. No?
Okay, so whoever asked that question should contact Peter directly.
Yes, please.
Next question, are there any restrictions on the import of oil or chemical-based products?
There are certain restrictions. Of course, the shipping restrictions is logical, but there are certain restrictions depending on what it is. If it is for the automotive industry in general, there's no restrictions. Of course, if it is oil-based products for the pharmaceutical industry, there would be limitations. But for the automotive sector, no.
Great. And then we have another question about the trade mission specifically, which is how many local executives will attend the trade mission, and are they going to be automotive warehouse distributors? And I'll start the answer to this, and then I'll turn it over to you, Cesar, to give more details on the actual process. But the process that takes place once you register is that you have first a conference call with Cesar and his team on the ground so that they can better understand your company, your products, and your goals, and then they go out and reach out to whoever it is that you're looking to make a connection with. And in your case, this question comes from Steve De Tomaso. If in your case, if it's warehouse distributors that you want to meet with, they would go out and identify and recruit and then pre-screen for you a group of automotive warehouse distributors that they think are a good match. So in short, WDs will certainly be a key target for this trade mission for obvious reasons, and we'll be working with Cesar and his team on the ground to find the best matches for you and all of the other participants. Anything else you want to add to that, Cesar, or even Kelly Holloway also from the Department of Commerce is on the line as well, so either of you should feel free to jump in and add anything I may have missed.
Yeah, well, the program is not finalized, but the tentative, as mentioned by Carolina, is on the first day to have a country briefing, site visits, and an evening reception. And the second day one-on-one meetings is with an agenda specially prepared for each company according to their objectives. If what you are looking for is a local rep or agent, distributor, or you want to visit potential end clients of your products, whatever you need, in the conference call, we will discuss your needs, your objectives, and what are the possibilities of us meeting them and the possibilities of the market, and we will work based on that.
Thank you, Cesar. And I would add, just as an anecdote, that prior to being a trade show organizer, we at the Auto Care Association were actually participants in 3 different trade missions. And 2 of those were to Latin America, 1 in Colombia and 1 in Guatemala. And as a trade mission participant, we found the service offered by the U.S. Commercial Service to be fantastic. Very thorough. They do a great job of understanding what your individualized needs are and matching you with the best possible prospects in the country. And so based on that experience, we then felt comfortable knowing that they did such a great job in partnering with them to organize our own trade missions. So we've gone pretty long. I think I've held you for almost 20 minutes longer than we said we would. So that's it as far as questions are concerned. We've left the contact names up here, so please feel free to reach out to us if we haven't addressed any questions or if you haven't gotten a chance to type in your questions. And again, please visit the Auto Care Association website for more details and for registration for the trade mission. Thanks again for your time and have a great afternoon.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.